Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Skillwork Forum. Today, we're going to break down the second part of a previous episode that we just did, where myself, Cap Chatfield, Director of Communications here at Skillwork, Tim Ragland, COO of Skillwork, and Brett Elliott, President and CEO of Skillwork, basically talk about a conference that we just came back from called the Connected Manufacturing Forum, and we discussed the future of connected manufacturing. Enjoy.
The next thing, this is a broad topic, but one that kind of resonated throughout the whole conference. And essentially, AI, artificial intelligence, a little bit of digital twin is part of that, but connected manufacturing and AI. And, what were your takeaways from that, Cap? And a little bit about this going in, but we're first set of eyes. What resonated?
I just think what's so interesting about AI is its predictive capabilities. And I think, so even in what I do for Skillwork, I'm experimenting with AI a little bit to see if we can write blogs faster and even come up with content ideas. I can ask Chat GPT, for example, give me 21 questions that executives would ask about how AI might affect their manufacturing operations. I could literally ask Chat GPT that right now, and in a matter of 5 seconds, it'll write out for me 21 different questions. And that doesn't replace the need for me to be a discerner of reading that and making sure, does this really line up? Maybe I have to feed it a second prompt to really kind of refine it. But I'm just seeing that in my world. And so to see how that can affect, asking AI, what are some of the greatest risks? Instead of trying to figure it out yourself, here's a new process we want to implement. Show us what the risks could be of doing this. And also, I believe it's going to come to a place pretty soon where it's even giving you measurements of percentage. What's the likelihood that we're going to run into this risk versus this? And I think it's just going to help business leaders make more informed decisions so that they can start up something new without messing up right away. So to me, it's here whether we like it or not. And I think the future's now with that.
Well, I think, Brett, too, the same thing. You got to change your mind. You think AI, well, that's stuff they use over there. I mean, how does it apply in manufacturing? You just think about predictive maintenance and, just in time supply chains and those sort of things. So what, again, from your lens of actually developing, running manufacturing facilities, how does this, how do you see this actually helping somebody out there running a plant?
I think, and I'm sure it's going to broaden in its uses, as it develops, more and more the whole AI and so, but today, I think it's a significant game changer from the standpoint of going from a reactive maintenance program, which is, if we're honest, the majority of facilities are still reactive. We fix it when it breaks. And we have a PM, a preventive maintenance program that is, it just kind of says, well, this is going to have this much life and this kind of a thing. And so based on that, we're going to change this at this point in time with the hope that we get it before it breaks, kind of a scenarios. Yeah. AI and the utilization of AI and those kinds of technology, in this connected environment in the plant where everything is basically talking to each other. You said it a minute ago, Cap. I don't think we're going to start to use it. I think the companies that are really on top of this are already using it. They're already getting predictive. So down to the point where you said it's literally going to be, they're going to be able to take exactly what, I don't know how ChatGPT works, but my understanding of the way it works is pulling all of this historical information and then doing it. Well, basically what plants will be able to do and are doing now, it's there, we're there. You take all of that information, it's now real information, and you feed it and it will predict, as opposed to a PM program that's got 2,000 hours or this, that. No, this thing, the history says it lasted 1,772 hours, or whatever. And they used to have a program around, then, somebody's got to go fix it. we talk about that. I think that's the beauty of the skilled trades is that, you can predict all of this. Somebody's got to manage all that and run all that. But then ultimately, joke on or the picking on ChatGPT was, some construction company ran that ad that said, ChatGPT finished this building. Well, ChatGPT, fix this line. It can predict when you need to fix it, but it's not going to fix it for you.
Yeah, I had a good conversation the other day. I was trying to talk to somebody in our generation that maybe hasn't spent as much time as we have looking at this. And, they said, it's just another Google, ChatGPT. I'm like, no, it isn't, because Google, if I say, I search for a country western song about a truck, it's going to bring up a song about a truck and maybe 150 songs, and you can go through and look at all.
Yep.
ChatGPT, the reasons it's artificial intelligence is that it will, based on your preferences, it knows what you listen to, what you like. It pulls from all those 200 songs and melds them together to produce something new.
To write a song.
To write something new. It's not Google gives you what's already there.
Yeah.
ChatGPT takes what's already there and creates something from it. It's that part of human intellect, creativity, that's got a lot of people scared, and for good reasons.
If I can add just a couple things to that too. Yeah. So right now, the current technology that exists with AI, there's AI image generation, and that's also translating into video creation as well. And so what that looks like is if you have an idea for a product, you could type in to something like that, create this product with these features that solves this problem, and it could spit out for you 20 to 100 different ideas in seconds of what that could look like. So as far as innovation, I mean, that to me is where it can get really interesting. And then as far as it being right now, this is an interesting stat I'd like to share from simplylearn.com. They said that the AI for manufacturing industry is expected to grow from 1.1 billion in 2020 to 16.7 billion by 2026, which it's 2023 right now. So in just 3 years, that'll go up to 16.7 billion. And so I think it's important for executives to realize this tidal wave is coming, whether we like it or not. And so we can either get our board and paddle or get clobbered by the wave.
Yeah. Yeah. And, connecting it back to the 3D printing idea in additive manufacturing. So you take the step of create me, this is the idea I have, and it spits out an image and go like, okay, let's ship the top 2 or 3 I like to our 3D printing additive manufacturing process. And by the end of day 1, I've got something that's sitting over there that I can tangibly look at.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I go in and pitch it to my execs the next day.
Yep.
It's like...
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
The other thing too, before we leave this topic to kind of tie in to the worker as well, because ultimately, that's where we live our life is in adding value and respect, back to the trades. And if you think about, Cap, we had this conversation the other day, AI has the potential, strong potential, to be able to start to, we've been telling the younger generations for quite a few years now, hey, if you can write code, if you can do this, you can do that, that's where you want to go. That's the job you want to go get. There's a pretty good chance AI is going to write code for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm a Gen Zer or whatever the one is before that, Alpha, I think those folks that are now starting to go, I'm not telling you don't go down the path of learning how to write software and code and that type of thing. But I would make a strong argument that the skilled trades and the automation technicians and the people that are going to run the fixing of this equipment, those jobs look way more secure in this new AI future than some of the others. So
that's a great
you do your own homework, but that would be my suggestion.
It's a great point, and it kind of leads us into the next conversation. And while this is not necessarily about technology, it is about innovation and the workspace. And it's this idea of women in the workplace, in the manufacturing space, and the fact that a lot of things we've been talking about, whereas let's just, state facts, in the past, manufacturing facility really required a lot of brute force and physical labor. And, there was a advantage there to guys in the workforce. With the advent of technology and appeal to young girls coming up, I'm a father of daughters, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. They're really very good at that and very capable, and they're very creative. And so all of this we're talking about lends to opportunities for women in the workforce. And it was a big point of this forum we were at. As a matter of fact, there was a panel that we got to listen to. It was headed up. There were several women in manufacturing, and it was headed up by Allison Graylis, who is the president of Women in Manufacturing. She, in fact, is going to be a guest on this podcast here in the future. But it was a very compelling panel we sat on, Cap, and it talked about how to get more women in the workforce, why it's a great place for them to be. And, what were your thoughts? Because we're champions in that as well.
I think the thing that really stuck out to me was just this lady that is actually we're gonna be interviewing on the Skillwork forum shortly. She was sharing how their organization is going and trying to reach young girls in middle school to give them an idea that this could be a future for them. And I think, to me, it's cool because their vision really increased my vision. Their vision of, no, we see where this is headed. We see that this is not limiting women. It's actually going to be more inclusive for women and create more opportunities for women. I think it fits really well with everything that we just talked about as well, because, for example, in 2020, there was actually an increase of women entering manufacturing until 2020, the pandemic, that kind of dipped down. And I can't say that this is a fact for everybody, but maybe it's a generalization. But I think there's a lot of women out there who are realizing, I do want to spend more time at home. I do want to spend more time with my family, with my kids. That happened to my wife particularly. She was a hairstylist. She spent a month out of the salon, and then she realized, you know what? I really like this more. I don't want to have to go into the salon every single day. And here's might be a bold prediction, but I'm just seeing how all these things are connecting with technology and the digital twin and things being done in the cloud a lot more. I believe that manufacturing is going to be done a lot in the future remotely. And I don't see why not. There might be need to come into the facility here and there to check on equipment, but I believe that there's going to be a great percentage of people's jobs in manufacturing that they could actually do from home with this technology. So for women in the workforce, I think this could actually end up being even a part-time job for people. And, don't stone the prophet. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I'm just looking at how things are moving and I'm thinking it's cleaner. It seems safer. It's more technical. It's smarter. And I think that creates not just opportunity for women on site, but even at home.
Yeah. One of the folks we talked to there of a company that specializes in doing augmented reality support, virtual support, remote support for maintenance, and a lot of other things. But the idea is kind of like your Pokemon example. They, through technology, they have let's say a cadre of experts at a central location that are repairing or providing repair direction to a facility 1,000 miles away. And remote medicine is doing a lot of the same things, which 10 years ago, people said you couldn't do it. Even though there's challenges to what you said, it's coming. And there's going to be more of that. We know that one thing that 2020 did, the pandemic did, it convinced a huge portion of our working population that working remote and virtual is possible, and it's appealing. We better embrace that, because that's what people coming into the workforce now are kind of expecting. So
it's true.
A couple other things we just wanted to talk about, Brett, and this, and these were kind of some of our takeaways. And one of them that I wanted to speak to was really the keynote. I think on day one, the keynote speaker was by John Dyke, who's the CEO of this organization. It's a government private industry consortium that heads up the Smart Manufacturing Institute. And he was really talking about all this great stuff that we just talked about, but hold on, because there's problems. And it's interesting to me because the third industrial revolution, which was really, we talk about here, we talk about the fourth IR all the time, but the third was the advent of computers. And, our country, United States, was at the forefront of that. We took advantage of computers and technology. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because he explained this in detail, but the third industrial revolution, manufacturing facilities were buying and installing a lot of technology, computerized this, automated that, a sensor for this, quality control over here, and hodgepodging it together. Now these manufacturing facilities have a bunch of systems that individually sound great, but they don't talk to each other. They don't collaborate. You can't get information from them. So he says, we basically are putting lipstick on the third industrial revolution pig and saying 4IR. But the problem is we got to fix the interoperability, which is a term that resonates for me from my military days. And the idea that we're not as connected as we think. As a matter of fact, he said we're 10 years behind the United States from our counterparts in Europe.
Especially. No, you're right. I think I know you and I, Tim. I don't know, Cap, if you got to hear John speak. I think it was morning of day one, but that was the key. It was really, you go into something like this connection manufacturing. It's a most of the people there that were heavily engaged in the digital transformation. They're leading the technology, the smart manufacturing inside of these large organizations, some smaller. And so they're techie, as we say. And I remember, Tim, we were looking at it on some of the stuff as we were leading up to the forum. Before we got there, they were talking about 5IR. And we're going, I don't know what that is, kind of a thing. So it was a really maybe a bit of a reality check. I think of what John Dyke was sharing was that don't kid yourself. We're not talking about 5IR. We're not even as far along in 4IR as we think we are, and we are behind the curve, and we've got to figure this thing out. So while yes, it's advancing, AI is advancing, all of these things are happening, we still have to get it all to connect and to get these facilities. One of the things that we heard a lot, which, kind of fed into our talk a little bit about, having the talent to execute on this digital transformation, process was we heard a lot of these folks who were leading these digital teams their biggest challenge was getting the facilities on board, because so they got all this great ideas, and this person over here, believe me, I was this person. I got to get this bacon in the box because, my customer needs it. And that's all I'm really worried about, today. And so trying to connect to those pieces, and, we still, as much as we don't want to admit it, in the manufacturing world, there are some great facilities out there. We're in a bunch of them that are very advanced and very automated, but there's a lot of them that are still fixing stuff when it breaks.
Yeah, the biggest challenge of this 4IR and taking advantage of it is retrofitting facility that already exists.
Yep.
That's been around for a while. Because, think about it, some plant engineer goes to a trade show and he sees a really cool widget. He says, I love that. I want to get it. And a vendor comes and is happy to sell it and install it. And that happened for 10 years plus. And you got all this great stuff, and a vacuum works wonderfully. But the whole idea when you're right, you may be sitting there going like connected data. I mean, I can't, it seems like an insurmountable problem. So this organization, CESMII, Smart Manufacturing Institute, they're trying to develop standards, approaches, models that you can follow so that not only your plant can talk from one department to another or one line to another, but within your company from one plant to another, and then be able to connect manufacturers together for the overall good. He's doing this from a government perspective because he's looking at us as a country competing against other countries, and we're behind. We're behind. And it was pretty clear to me one of the presenters was from Lego, the toy, and they're out of, I think, the Netherlands or Belgium, or
I think it was the Netherlands.
Yeah. So they're from there. And I mean, you think of Legos, I don't think of technology when I think of Legos, but 60% of their products are new every year. Everything, all their plants all around, he talked about their metrics, the plants they have around the world, how many bricks they produce every year, the connectedness of that. And I'm like, who knew? Legos.
Yes.
And so there's a company, a European base, that is ahead of us significantly. Mars is another one, Toyota. So we've got to recognize we just can't put lipstick on that Industry 3.0 and say we're there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some work that has to be done. And one last thing I want to talk about, and Brett, you alluded to it, is to get this to work, any change to work, we have to get better. We and leaders have to get better of understanding that there's a lot of psychology involved in getting people to adapt to change. It's a whole, it's even a profession, but it's what is the word? It's a mindset. It's an approach called change management. And they talked about it a lot. They give some very specific examples. I remember the gentleman from the agricultural manufacturing facility, they had a need for a lot of welders. Yep. They couldn't find the welders. They just couldn't find them.
Yep.
And they were losing welders. Like, we have to bring in some robotic welding machines. And how are we going to get our welders that have been here for a long time? We don't want to get rid of our welders. We want to change we want to change them from doing all the welds to doing only the really highly technical, critical welds, let the machines do it. And they program the machines. He talked about that whole journey.
Wow.
And the whole idea was getting those guys that have been welding in that facility in Kansas to accept these robotic machines are actually going to help you. And he talked about you had to get a couple of those guys that have been at that plant for 25 years to buy in.
That's
or it was not going to work.
That's really tough.
It's just, so think, what about the psychology of change, Brett, in that?
Well, I think the air or the risk, of this whole change of this automation, this digital transmission. When you're the person who is leading that, and you're very excited about it because it all makes sense to you, but the reality is, the person who over here who's the welder, or they're the technician, or they're the person working on the line, you got to think about how you're going to sell that, because ultimately you're selling them, but you got to get your stakeholders to buy in. Well, the minute you say the word automation to the person on the line, they hear what?
They hear
it's my job.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they've had to get, or they need to get, and I think some of them have, they've gotten smarter about coming alongside that. They got to get buy-in, because the reality is, for the most part, you're changing their job, and a lot of times you're making it probably better because they're not as that, and so you're changing that. But you've got to, how you communicate it and how you get that buy-in is going to be super critical in these facilities, as opposed to, we're going all in on automation, because everybody in the facility hears one thing when you say that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a previous life, I worked at a company, large Fortune 150 company. They've been around for 150 years, so change is tough. And we were tasked. I was tasked with leading a large, like 1,500 people had to adopt. So we brought in outside consulting to help us put together. And one of the recommendations is you need a change management expert. They didn't know it existed. And so we brought on, and it wasn't cheap, but it helped. PhD in change management. She came in and educated me to the whole, there is a process. The old analogy we use is put a frog in a pot of water and turn up the heat slowly and well, there's a process of that. You don't just throw a frog in a hot water, and that's kind of a graphic example. It's used often, boil the frog.
Yes.
And the idea is there's a process and an approach. And people say, well, I don't have time to do that. That's the last thing they think about. Cap, you're an innovative guy. You've got a new idea every 5 minutes. And you've got to get your customers, your clients, the people at Skillwork, the people that work for us, they got to buy into that idea. And if they don't buy into what you see, it ain't going to happen.
No, you're so right. But I think there's also, you just have to commit, because even the workers that you're talking about that are going to be very, what's the word? They're going to have their guard up when they hear that word automation. The reality is that for every 5 boomers that are exiting the workforce, only 2 younger generation workers are replacing them. So it's not going to get better. It's not going to go away. And a facility is going to face the reality of, at some point, all of those older, more seasoned workers are going to leave anyway. And then you're going to be even more behind if you don't embrace this now. So,
yeah, it's great. This topic is, it's one of these things talking about change. We as a company are focused on providing you the great skilled craftsmen and tradesmen and women that you need to make all this work. We live in it every day. And we recognize that no matter how much automation, no matter how much technology, no matter how much that you bring in, ultimately, at least in the era we live in now, you're going to have even more highly skilled people to make it work, to repair it, to install it, to program it, figure it out. And those are becoming harder and harder to come by, as Cap alluded to. That's what we do. We find those people, we hire those people, and we provide them to our clients all around the country to help them realize these dreams. And we would love to talk to you about that. This podcast is not salesy. It's not meant to be, but we really want to talk about the idea that don't leave behind the need for your skilled people to do this, because at your own peril. So, great conversation today. Thanks for joining us.
This was fun. Thanks a lot, guys.
You really picked up our game a little bit, although I am a better dresser.
Yeah, you are.
So we really appreciate your time. Pray that you're blessed by it, and appreciate you joining us here on the Skillwork Forum. Until next time, have a great day.